Hey guys, I'm Joe with BBQFriend, and welcome to my backyard. Today, we're going to trim a brisket. So what I've got here is a USDA Prime full packer brisket. This came from Costco. This one weighs 18 pounds. I kind of like to have briskets anywhere between 16 to 18 pounds. After, I trim it down, it's probably going to be about 14, 15 pounds, which is right around where I want it to be on the smoker. So let's go ahead and unpack this. You're going to want to get yourself a couple really sharp knives. We're using the Dalstrong Knives series. I've got the fillet knife and the butcher knife. So let's go ahead and open this up and get it unpacked. All right, so let's start with the basic anatomy of a brisket. You've got two sides. You've got the meat side and then the fat side. What we're gonna do is we're gonna wanna trim down this fat side to get about 1/4 of an inch of fat on the top. And then we're gonna trim this meat side down just to remove any of this excess fat, some of this silver skin. What you have here is two separate muscles that are laying on top of each other. You've got the flat over here, which is basically the lean meat, and you've got the point, which is up on this side. This is what we call the fatty meat. And it's separated by a large vein in front here of fat, which we would call the decal. So if we take a look here, you can kind of see all of this over here is just a lot of fat. We're going to go ahead and start trimming this up and get this to a place where we're ready. So first thing I like to do is I like to start on the meat side. And what I'm going to do is, you can see right here, this is a big chunk of fat. So I'm just going to go ahead and start trimming this off. The key here is having a real sharp knife. That's why I love this Dalstrong. This is the Night Shark series. It's got a great grip on it. It's an anti-slip grip, really sharp. And we're going to go ahead and just start trimming this off and putting it to the side. We're not going to waste anything. All this fat that we're going to trim off, we're going to use to render down to make some beef tallow. Nice and slow, trimming our way. Just taking some of this big fat off here. And get some of that silver skin. You don't have to go too crazy. When in the process of this cooking, this is going to render down. So you don't have to go extraordinary, but we want to try to get as much as we can. You can still see here, there's still a good chunk of fat there. So let's try to shave that off a little bit more. There we go. All right. I'm good there for now. So I'll flip this over so we can kind of get a look. All right, so if we could take a look on this side, you can see there's a pretty hefty fat piece right here. So we're definitely going to want to trim that out. As you're feeling along your brisket, you can go ahead and kind of really feel the difference between what soft fat is and what hard fat is. You can see here, this is pretty soft, but when you get to here, this is pretty much real hard. That hard fat has got to come off. That's not going to render down on the cook. This softer fat up here will be okay, but we're just going to trim it down to get it into the right portion, right size. All right, so first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just try to take this big chunk off here. That's nice and hard. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of square this side up a little bit so you can really start to see. Yeah, so now you can see this is pretty good meat. We're going to go ahead and save this, and we're going to use this to grind down for burgers. So you can see over here now we kind of exposed our thickness. You can see it's really thick on this side. So we're going to go ahead and trim this down a little bit more. And a nice sharp knife is your best friend here. All right, let's take a look on this side over here. And you can see, it looks like the butcher got a little zealous here. So we're going to cut that off ultimately, well, it's all fat anyway. But stuff like that, these loose ends, this is all gonna burn. But as you can see, this side here is what's known as the mohawk, okay? So there's a piece of meat, and this is mostly all fat. So what we're gonna do is we're going to remove this, and this is a pretty aggressive cut, but you'll see when we start to take this off that there's not that much meat that's really in there that we're really looking for. And I'm gonna go ahead and switch knives over to my butcher's knife. This one's a little bit of a bigger blade, nice and sharp. And we just wanna go ahead and remove that mohawk. And you can see, yeah, there is some meat in there. This is gonna be great to be ground up, but it's not buying us anything here. And you see we're starting to expose that decal, that real hard fat vein right in there. I'm gonna go ahead and just take a knife and just kind of clean up the side so we can kind of see that. Yep, still real hard, so let's keep trimming it down. All right, we're getting better. Keep cleaning up those edges. We want to have this nice and round. We want to have all these sides edges. And we're going to keep feeling that brisket along that top. You can see this is still hard here, so let's keep on going. All right, put that one down. Now we're going to be a little bit more surgical now because we're getting closer to the meat. And start really trimming some of this off. You can spend hours trimming brisket. And honestly, this is an art, something that I am definitely not perfect in. So just take your time, removing fat, stuff that's not going to render. All right, and I think we're at a point here where that looks good. We're going to round off these edges over here. Spin this around so you guys can see. This over here seems still a little thick, so we're going to go ahead and trim that down a little bit more. All right. Top of that looks pretty good. Let's flip this over, take another look at the bottom. Yep, you can see right here, there's a big fat vein. We'll go ahead and trim that. Still got a little bit more there. All right, I think we're pretty good on that side. Now this part, what I like to do is I like to push this flat out and move it out so we can kind of see how thick everything is. And you can see right here, this is really thin in this area over here. If we're gonna go ahead and cook this the way that it is, you can if you want to, but this is really thin. This is gonna end up burning and becoming way overdone before the rest of that brisket cooks. So what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna kinda shape this brisket, removing this piece here and trying to get a uniform thickness on the meat. So we're gonna go ahead and take our knife, and this looks like a pretty aggressive cut, but remember, we're not wasting anything. This is perfect meat that's gonna get ground up into burgers, or you can even make sausage out of it. Now looking at this, you can see we now have a more uniform thickness across the front. When this cooks, it's gonna cook a lot more even. The last thing that we're gonna do is just final touches. You can see here, we've got a little bit of a sharp edge, so we're gonna go ahead and round that out. Still feels a little tough up here still, so I'm gonna take a little bit more. Like I said, you guys can trim a brisket all night long. Keep finding things that you wanna take off. All right. So you can see now the front of that brisket, it's nice and uniform, even thickness. That's gonna get a nice cook all together. If we got some rounded, everything's rounded on the corners, so we're not gonna have smoke hung up or anything that's gonna burn. That fat on the top is nice and even. We've cut off all of that heavy, hard fats. So this right now is ready to be seasoned and can get put in the fridge, ready to go for smoke. If you guys like what we do, go ahead and like and subscribe. It helps us out, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.